And we are back. Las Vegas, thank you so much for letting me into your radio, and listeners all around the world, thanks for tuning in and listening to us streaming live. And I am joined by a game show host, a comedian, a magician, a speaker, somebody who's had his own Comedy Central specials, a street performer, and a fellow Detroit area native. Welcome, the Amazing Johnathan.
You failed to mention my lacrosse skills.
Oh, yeah, and your water volleyball skills.
And my highlight skills.
Yep, classic car collector.
Yes, yeah.
Yep, and performer at the Magic Castle.
The Magic Castle. Yeah, once. I played there once.
Yeah,
and I'm about to play there again for the very last time.
Yeah, you are doing your quote-unquote retirement show.
With an asterisk on that. There's an asterisk on that, and that is if the money is really good, I'm out of retirement for that night.
Gotcha. So you are in retirement unless bribed.
Yeah, I'm retiring because of my health, not because I want to stop doing the show. I was asked to stop performing by my doctor and my fan core base, and so yeah, I guess I'm going to stop. You know. It's harder and harder to do the show nowadays.
And and normally what I'll do is I'll talk about, where you're at now, and then we go back to the very beginning. But before we go back to the beginning, here's something that I always found it impressive. I mean, even at this stage in your career, you don't stop writing stuff.
No, but just not for me. I can write stuff for other people really easily, but when it comes time to write stuff for myself, drawing a blank. I know in my head that it's not time to write stuff. I was offered another hour special. Did I tell you that?
No.
They offered me another hour special, and I would have to write a whole new hour for that. I just, without blinking an eye, I said no.
But I mean, to anybody who doesn't understand, writing an hour, that's pretty much that can be a 5-year.
Yeah. Well,
task.
If you're not doing a TV show, if you're kicking it out on TV, then you like I used to be able to make up things on the phone when I was talking to Comic Strip Live when I was doing shows for Fox, that show on Saturday. They would ask me if I had another set, and I would say yeah, and I would make it up, and I would have to build it. When I hung up the phone, I would have to go build that set, and that's how fast I could write material. But nowadays, I have no delight in writing anything for my show, but I have great delight in writing for other people's shows or just other projects. That's what I'll do. I'll just stay at home and work on other projects.
Now, you started off in Detroit, which
nice town if you're a bullet.
Yeah. As I've often said, it's a great town to be from. The things that Detroit did for me was everything that I needed to know to get out of Detroit.
You can run fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can run. I can duck, and
Serpentine.
I know how to. And I know how to be really get on stage, get off stage before the audience even knew I was there. Sometimes.
Not to mouth off to your brother. You know that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, so how did you get started? What?
I started as a magician who wandered into a magic shop by mistake, and I was very unpopular in high school, or junior high school, I should say, that I needed something to set me apart. It wasn't going to be my grade average or my athletic skills. Could have been my drug prowess, but they don't. That doesn't count, really.
Yeah, that doesn't make you directly popular, but it does bring an underground following.
Not unless you're selling it. No, that's how I started. I just wandered into a magic shop, and I think I bought 2 tricks, and I saw the effect that it had on people, and I dove right into it. Went to the library, and they happened to have 4 or 5 books on Houdini, which I own to this day.
Now, did you buy them or not return them?
No, I just didn't return them because I figured it this way. They were late, it would cost money, and I don't need the competition of another little kid getting motivated by magic books he finds in the school library. I don't need that. So I have those books.
Now, I do want to talk to you about a magic trick that you did in high school.
Yeah.
A spoon bending routine.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like I said, I wasn't really popular in school, so I bent a spoon for my physics teacher in 9th grade, and he was very impressed. Keep in mind, people really, in those days, they were much more naive than they are today. I mean, they're still Christians, but I'm just saying, they were naive about spoon bending. They thought Uri Geller was real, so I bent the spoon for him, and he asked me, is it a trick or is it real? And I lied to him, and I said it was real, thinking that would be the end of it. And next hour, I hear my name come up over the loudspeaker to go to the principal's office. And when I go in there, there's my mom and my dad standing there. They took my dad out of work, and there was a bunch of spoons on the desk, and there was a local reporter from the newspaper there as well, from the Macomb Daily. So my mom took me aside, and she said, I want to ask you something. Can you really bend spoons, or did you lie to your teacher? And without missing a beat, I lied to her, and I said I really bent spoons. So the snowball's getting bigger and bigger, the big lie snowball. And so I proceeded to bend all the spoons on the desk for them, and they were all just blown away, and the reporter was going to do this big story on me. But then I figured if magicians read this, then I would be busted big time, and I would make it look like an idiot. So this is how I got out of it. And I firmly believe that I'm the only one who could have thought of this, because it's so brilliant. I said to my mom and everyone else, look, I don't want to be a freak in school. I want to be a normal kid. I don't want to be the kid everyone looks at and I don't want to be Carrie, basically, is what I don't want to be. So my mom told the reporter that not to write the story, and he didn't write it. And I went about my business thinking that it would be a secret, but all the kids found out about it eventually and looked at me with this awe and respect, the old shock and awe.
Well, yeah, they were afraid you were going to lock him in the gym and light it on fire.
Yeah, and this is the time when Bowie Fell to Earth came out. Everyone's looking for something. Everybody was trying to grab for something. And I got laid more from that stupid lying about bending that spoon and the ether on a rag that I carried around than anyone else.
Yeah, and I completely forgot that would have been right about the time the Man Who Fell to Earth, which was based on Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, where they really were getting into the idea that maybe people really can do this stuff.
That's right. Everyone wanted to believe in something supernatural. The Bermuda Triangle books were in full swing, and the Uri Geller spoon bending thing, and me in my own small way in Fraser, Michigan, I did my part to scam.
I love what somebody once said about The Man Who Fell to Earth. They said it's about an androgynous alien who sleeps with every supermodel, and it's based and it's not just about David Bowie's life.
No, it's not. It was actually David Bowie loitering in front of a movie, I think is what it was.
Yeah, he didn't exactly have strong acting skills.
No, he didn't need him. He didn't have any lines to speak in that.
Now, all right, so you decide to grow beyond the fabulous world of spoon bending. And now, did you do a talent show, or did you just do your own show?
No, I did a talent show. I did many muscular dystrophy carnivals that they were called back then. Do you remember you could have them in your backyard and you'd raise money? Yeah, a lot different than the EDC thing. But that's how it started, probably. This was MDC, muscular dystrophy carnivals, where you put up a clothesline and you put your curtain's a blanket with clothespins on it. I did a lot of those shows. Oddly enough, they paid better than they're paying now.
Yeah. But then again, most things do.
Yeah, but then I have to give the money to Jerry. So, I did a high school talent show. It was the last magic show that I ever did because I bombed so horribly in this talent show that I never did magic after that. Ever again.
You actually told me something about that, and it was the only line that has ever sent a chill down my spine. And you said that it went so badly, your friends wouldn't even make fun of you.
Nope. They didn't make fun of me the next day. They didn't even make eye contact with me the next day. They just tried to avoid me completely. And I knew why. I wasn't stupid.
You know, I mean, it's one thing when something goes wrong and your friends give you crap for it. You expect when things go right, your friends give you crap about it.
I did 6 tricks, and every single one went wrong. There wasn't one trick that went right. The girl that was in the sword box got a leg cramp, and she had to get out of the box before the trick was over, and she knocked the whole box apart, and it fell apart on stage, and I killed the dove, I killed the bird. It ran from me, and I tried to chase it, and it stopped real fast, and I can't stop that fast. I'm sorry. I've tried it many times afterwards to see if I could, and I couldn't. I ran right over the bird, squashed him flat. This is a bird I had for like maybe 10 years too, man. I was into this. Christopher was his name. I still remember his name. He's buried in my yard in Michigan. I unburied him years later to see what he looked like.
Not still
not the
flat.
same. No, he's about as much action as afterwards on stage that night. Before he was such an active thing too. I don't know what happened.
Now from Detroit, you actually decided to more or less run away from Detroit over to San Francisco.
Yeah, well, we went to L.A. and with some friends, and we got in a big fight on the way there. We went there for specific reasons. One is to do drugs in the desert, to try to find peyote from an Indian, because we all had just read Carlos Castaneda's books, Don Juan books. And so we are all real set on getting mescaline. And we didn't end up finding mescaline, but we did find amyl nitrate, which is another natural grown in the desert drug.
Yeah. As long as there's a pharmacy, it's grown naturally right there.
The little poppers grow out of the glass ampules out of the ground, and you pick them carefully. Careful not to break them. But, we found that. But we got in a fight over money, and they dropped me and another girl off on the side of the road and went back home to Detroit, only to become unemployed and working on an assembly line. And I'm not rubbing their faces in it, because I'm sure they can't hear this show. But if they could hear it, if by chance, you bastards, look what happened.
So now, was your intention to always stay on the West Coast at that point, or not?
My intention was to. Did I ever tell you I wanted to build a treehouse? Did I ever tell you my intention was?
You mentioned you wanted to live in a treehouse.
Yeah, I try not to mention it to a lot of people, because it's like it's the dream of a 6-year-old, not a 20-year-old kid, which is what I was. I think 19 or 20. I went out there to live in the woods and build a treehouse. I figured there wouldn't be any rent, and there wouldn't be, and there would be plenty of sheriffs probably. But I was going to live out in the woods, and that was my plan till I got out there, and then. Things went horribly awry. I hitchhiked to San Francisco and started street performing because I needed the money.
All right, so there wasn't it wasn't the young Johnathan who was not yet the amazing Johnathan, the adequate or the mediocre Johnathan at this point.
Yeah.
Didn't say I want to be a street performer. He went, I need money.
I need money. Yeah, I was not even Johnathan. I was John back then.
And
I added the thing because I thought it'd be cool on a business card.
And you met an inspiration at that point.
The Lord?
I don't think you ever met him.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. He hasn't shown up yet.
I was going with spectacles and a fedora. You met Harry.
Yeah, Harry Anderson. I was actually pretty good at that point. I had gone to the library and learned how to write comedy by looking at these books by Robert Orban, teaching you how to write comedy, and I learned the formula, the basics of it. And then Harry Anderson. One time when I went to go get a sandwich or a bite to eat and left my equipment on the street real quick, I came back and he had packed everything up and put it in my suitcase for me and was in my spot doing his show. So I was going to go kick his ass until I saw that about 200 people stopped to watch him in about 5 seconds. He just could attract people on the streets like crazy. I don't know. But he only did a 3-card Monte, and he was so good. And I was so blown away by him that I got to be friends with him, and he showed me some of the tricks, some of the past tricks. And also Whitney Brown is the real mentor on the street. He was on Saturday Night Live, I think, for a couple seasons, doing the news. And
now, was he street performing as a comedian?
He had a dog act on the street. Whitney Brown and his Dog of Renown was the name of it. And he had inherited this dog from a gay roommate who shot himself in front of Whitney, shot himself in the head because he liked Whitney. Whitney wasn't gay, and he got so frustrated that he killed himself in front of Whitney and left this dog in Whitney's hands, and this dog could do everything with his ear signals. Just by tugging his ear or touching his head, the dog could do everything. So that he would tell a joke, and as soon as he told a dog joke, the dog would get mad and run inside the doghouse and slam the door closed. And Whitney would coax him back out, and he would tell another dog joke, and he'd run back in and slam the door, all just because he touched his ears, right? So, look, it was a great act. It was a brilliant act. And Whitney knew a lot about comedy, and he taught me the most important rule of all, which was his whole secret of success was if you just keep writing material, success will come no matter what. All the doors will open if you just keep writing material. Everything comes naturally after that. And he's right. I didn't worry about it getting an agent or it all came to me pretty natural. The TV shows, the specials that followed that street performing thing, all through the 80s and 90s, I had specials just because I could do different stuff,
Now, all right, so when you think about like the pinnacle of your street performing, is there anything from the street performing days that made it all the way to Vegas with you?
The whole act. And I don't think there's a pinnacle of street performing. I don't think there's such a thing as the pinnacle of street performing.
Well, when
somebody giving you $100 is the pinnacle of street performing.
That's true. Yeah, it's kind of a moment by moment.
Yeah,
I mean, in New Orleans, a lot of my
if you
friends
don't
say
get
that.
off the street, you don't see the pinnacle.
Gotcha.
The pinnacle's off the street.
So yeah, the pinnacle is being somewhere where there's air conditioning.
That's right.
So how did you leave the street?
By getting beat up. I got beat up.
Really?
Yeah, I got jumped all the time. On Fisherman's Wharf, there were these gangs, there was this projects right off of Fisherman's Wharf. And these little 13, 14-year-old black kids, and they would swarm you like bees. I mean, literally jump us and with chains and knock my partner's teeth out and take your money. And so you learn how to fight, for one thing, on the street. And I got off the street because I was starting to fight with cops. I punched a cop, and that was the last straw on the street. He was moving me along, stopped my show because at one point I got so many people on the street that they would arrest me for obstruction because they went out. They went out into the street, and so he punched me, threw me against the wall, and I punched him back. But halfway through the punch, I noticed in my hand I had a motorcycle helmet. And yeah, man, I clocked him good. I knocked him right out, and his partner took me in, and it wasn't a battery charge. It was assault with a deadly weapon.
Ooh.
So when they give you pajamas, you're not in there overnight. When they give you an orange jumpsuit, So I was in there for about 3-4 days, and Whitney came bailed me out.
So how'd you get into a comedy club?
That's how. By not being able to go back on the streets. I couldn't show my face anymore on the streets.
But I mean, did you do open mics?
There was a club called Holy City Zoo in San Francisco. This is the club where Robin Williams started, Dana Carvey. When I was doing comedy at the zoo, open mic night, Robin was with me, Dana Carvey was with me, Ellen DeGeneres was with me. This was all the San Francisco comics that were... I was there when Robin brought his Mork and Mindy contracts into the bar and showed everybody, and we were all looking at him going, "You're making $5,000 a week? Holy mackerel, that's a lot of money!" We were all flipping out that Robin got a part. And then,
and it's funny that you say that because I mean, okay, $5,000 a week, that doesn't suck no matter who you are.
Yeah.
But when you think about like a #1 rated TV show,
you're 79.
Yeah, but you still imagine this guy's going to be fantastically rich because he's on a #1 show. It doesn't really work like that.
Yeah, well, he was pretty rich. Mm-hmm. He got rich because if you do more than one season.
Yeah,
I got rich off of one season.
Well, and so you do comedy clubs. You're touring doing comedy clubs. You're also doing colleges at this point too.
I find out about the colleges from Whitney. Whitney. At that time, nobody was doing colleges. James Taylor was doing them. A few jugglers. It was an untapped market. It was a kept secret. Nobody knew about it. So the deal was it was chancy. You had to send money in. You still do to this day. You have to send money in. They watch your tape.
The APCA, yeah.
If you don't
Association
watch
for
it,
Promotion of Campus Activities.
right? If they don't use you, they keep your security deposit, your money. You just give them money.
It's a viewing fee.
It's a viewing fee for their time, and it was a lot of money back then. It was so I applied for those and got into most of them and got into the main stage showcases, which is the big. I killed. I was doing 5 colleges a week, probably sometimes 2 a day, one in the morning, one at night, and just taking the checks that I would make and putting them in the glove box and not cashing them. And by the end of the tour, I had probably close to $750,000 in checks. So I remember the day. Not long after that, when I became a millionaire, because my mom called me and said, "Guess what? You have $1 million in the bank." And I was only at the time 24, 25, maybe, I think. Maybe a little older, 28 maybe.
Now how'd you get the first, so the record for Comic Strip Live, I believe, correct?
Yeah, the
most appearances on Comic Strip Live.
Yeah.
How'd you get your first TV booking?
This is good because, I mean, people say there's no one show that makes you, but there was in my situation. It was one show that made my whole career. And being from San Francisco, we have never been to L.A. to go to the Improv to showcase for TV producers. But there was a huge showcase, and this comedy club owner, John Fox from San Francisco, who owned some of the clubs, could bring 3 comics with him to LA to audition to do a show at the Improv. So I was one of the comics he brought, and I killed that night. I nailed it. They had never seen anything like that from the street. The energy I had at that time, the street combined with the cocaine, combined with the high energy I naturally had anyway. I was like a tornado, man. I just came and did props and threw them away. It was a great set.
You did what, 40 minutes of material in about 3.5 minutes?
Yeah, I did. And that 3.5 minutes. Yeah. I did about 1.5 minutes of material and a half a minute of sweating and
and that also led to the Young Comics on HBO.
Well, that's the thing. When I got off stage, I got all these producers from Hollywood came up to me and they wanted a piece. So I got Thick of the Night, which was Alan Thicke's talk show. It was supposed to be the new Johnny Carson.
Yep.
So I got that. I got HBO Young Comedian special that night, and I got David Letterman that night.
Nice.
So within a month after taping that HBO special, I was on Letterman. I had Thick of the Night. I had the ball rolling, And there was a lot of shows back then. That was the Carolines. There was Evening at the Improv. That TV had a half a dozen shows.
But this was also right about the time too that cable started to come into play, and so when you were on something on A&E, and there wasn't 300 channels, so when you were on a Bravo or something back then, that was almost close to being networked. Just about everybody saw it.
HBO Young Comedian special made careers. It still does make. I mean, it did every year. It produced stars. I mean, the one that Rodney Dangerfield hosted made 4 huge Eddie Murphy, Andrew Dice Clay.
Yep.
Who else was on that one? Sam
Kinison. Was that also when Harry Anderson introduced Ellen?
I don't know. No, Harry wasn't the host on that one.
There was one year where they had 3 different hosts.
That was the best. Yeah, that was the best of. Yeah, I was on with John Candy. He hosted my year, and there was some
with the fantastic fashion statement of the blue suit to rival Eddie Murphy's red one.
It was punk. These were the punk days. I got my stuff in Boy of London.
Now,
tight pants, boots, zippers everywhere.
And this leads to not HBO, your own special.
Well, HBO reruns that special over and over again. At that time,
it's still on.
They didn't do that in those days. They didn't have a show that ran over and over again. This is the first cable comedy show that they reran more than 6 or 7 times. So that's why you got famous from that one.
Now, this doesn't necessarily lead to your first special so much as this kind of led to Ruckus.
I think that I don't know where Merv Griffin saw my show, but one of the late night comedy shows, he saw it, and I guess he laughed till he was choking. He said, and then finally, he looked for a project for me and found one. Called me up and said, "Do you want to come headline in Atlantic City?" So I replaced Phyllis Diller in the show that he had at his casino in Atlantic City. That was the first time I ever had a big headlining gig in a casino where I got the big suite and I got signing privileges and I was given the star treatment. And I decided I wasn't going to have anything but that from that point on, and set the bar. All the other comics around that time, a lot of them started lowering their money a little bit because the club started dying off a little more, but I raised it. Every time someone lowered it, I would raise. And the perception of that helped me get whatever I wanted. I got gigs everywhere. I worked all the time.
When did you live in Australia?
I met a girl when I worked in I was in the Bahamas. I met a girl in a bar, and she knew me from an Australian show. That's another thing. I travel around the world doing shows, so I had a fan base in a lot of different countries, not just America, mainly in Australia, even more so than America. They love me in Australia, and I got a TV show there, and that's where she recognized me from that, and we hit it off, and I married her. I married her like a year later, so then Satan called her home, and then now she lives.
So in the end, that special ended up being very expensive for you.
Yeah. I did that Lounge Lizard special on Comedy Central with my wife. She was in the show.
Yeah, Sandra. Yeah, Psychic Sandra.
Psychic Sandra. She was she was my wife, and then she left me. When we came back, we started headlining in Vegas at the Sahara.
Now
that's when she left.
What was your
Bitch.
what was your first? And actually, you've told me the story, and it's one of my favorites. When you wanted to, it was towards. In fact, it was the end of your marriage when you decided that since you guys have been fighting, you were going to buy her a gift.
Yeah, I bought the day she left me. I had a Porsche, 57 Porsche vintage Porsche Speedster in the driveway, gift wrapped for her. And she was going to get that. And on the way home from Vegas, on the plane, she said she's going back to Australia. And I asked her why, and she wouldn't tell me why. She wanted a divorce. So I called my friend and said, drive the car out of there. Get it out of there. I don't want her to see this. And he didn't believe me. He wouldn't drive it out because he thought that was something I would do, because it's the guy I always get practical jokes on. He falls for everything. So... But finally, I convinced him, and he drove it away, and she never got to see it. But she left that day. She left. I didn't see her again for 5 years.
Now, how did you get your first Vegas run?
Well, I always played Vegas just for a week or two. You know, I always played here when Bally's was the MGM Grand, and they had a comedy club inside there called Catch a Rising Star was in the sports book. So I played there, and I did a TV special from there, Showtime special. And then I would come back. The person who brought me back was the Sahara. The guy booking the Sahara would bring me back for 3-week stints. And I'd come maybe half the year and do shows here. And we were doing really huge crowds. I mean, I didn't know why we were drawing business, but that's the first time I think I noticed we had a big draw. And then the Comedy Central special, the Lounge Lizards, pushed us over the edge. And when they asked me to play at the Nugget for 2 weeks, I'd already got divorced. This was I was ready to get out of the business after my divorce. I was going to quit, and this brought me back. The Gold Nugget gig revived me.
And so now you're on Fremont Street, the Golden Nugget. This was kind of when Fremont Street started to hit a different level of popularity. Sinatra, once upon a time, had played the Nugget, but somebody actually beat Sinatra's record on a regular basis. Who was that?
Me. Yeah, I broke Sinatra's house record. Downtown was dead when I got there. David Brenner had talked to Gold Nugget into reopening the showroom after Steve Wynn closed it, and they did, and he was doing okay. He was and keeping above water, but not on good terms with the Nugget. I couldn't understand why. Because they treated me great, because I was selling out. I went in there to fill in for Brenner for 2 weeks and sold out every night, and they had never seen that before. And so they created a time slot for me at 10 o'clock. And we sold out every single night for about 2 years. We were there for 2 years straight when I decided to leave the Nugget and go to the Flamingo, which was a bad mistake.
But you still had a 13-year run in Las Vegas.
Yeah, different various casinos for different various reasons. I usually left a casino to go to another casino for more money, but a few times I've left because they were just nasty.
But I mean, here's the thing that's phenomenal to me when you say that you were here for 13 years is, for those who really don't understand what it's like, marketing, maintaining, doing a show every day, to have the stamina, the energy, to be able to do it for 13 years is a remarkable accomplishment. Not many people have been able to come near that number.
Not many people have a good dealer like I have. I think that's the difference. No, it was fun. I mean, I had a good time. I drove to work. I didn't have to fly. You know, I love the fact that I wasn't at airports all the time. I love the fact that, you're a big star in one city, but there's
And you get out of traffic tickets because you're wearing a headband.
yeah,
and you
you're a
can cock
local
an eyebrow.
celebrity. Everybody opens the doors for you. It's great. Here's the only bad part is that while you're having fun, the rest of the world's going in a different direction. You know, the entertainment industry doesn't take notice of people in Australia. For example, Danny Gans, as big as he was, you know, once he left the city limit, nobody knew who he was. So that was kind of happening to me. I had a really big following, but in 13 years, it had fallen off. And when I finally quit Bally's last year and went on the road, it wasn't what I expected it to be. I expected it to be like it was when I left the road. But there's a whole new generation of kids who don't know who I am, you know what I mean? And because I haven't been doing TV specials, I haven't been just Chris Angel's Mind Freak. I would do that, you know, which helped me with a younger demographic. But those kids won't be buying tickets for another few years yet.
Now, something that always impressed me with your fans, and one of my favorite memories of this was actually back when we were both at the Harmon Theater, and both of us had some dealings with the management that day that didn't exactly put us in a great mood. And we're walking through, and both of us are just in one of those just rah, 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 just angry. And somebody came up to you and went, "Oh my God, you're the Amazing Johnathan." And you stopped everything. And for the next, and I mean, the guy only wanted like a minute or so of your time. He wanted to grab a picture. But for that minute, you treated him like he was a great person, like he was a great friend.
That's rare. That was really rare when I did that.
But you know, the thing is, that's not rare for you.
I know.
You know, the way you treated your fans.
If anyone is mean to their fans, then they're dicks. Because I mean, you know what? When you take it away from that person, you'll see how much he misses that. You know. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you put up with it, you'll always get it a little bit. I mean, people will, but you know what? You can be as nice as you want. There's always going to be some ass that makes it when. When I met him, he people come up to me. They've actually made stories up. They go, "Hey, you told me this one time," and I'm like, you know what? No, I didn't, because I can never picture myself ever saying that to anyone in my life. I'm not rude. I would never say that to anyone. And they're like, "Yes, you did, man." I'm like, you just dreamt that up. People dream up situations for you.
And there's one question I want to ask you about money-wise, because I always thought this was great. The Make-A-Wish Foundation. You always donated part of your merch sales.
Yeah. You got to help the whales.
Yep. but I mean, you know, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, you always donated to that.
You donate on the ish way, Kevin.
You know, and
I donated for the first half of my career to Amnesty International.
Okay.
However, I got tired of explaining to people what Amnesty International was. So it was something that I didn't have to explain. Make-A-Wish is, you know, everyone knows what that is. And so we've been given. It really, not only does it help them, but it really helps sell things, because people. I told you this before.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes the greed factor out of what you're doing. If you're selling something and giving away the profits and keeping enough to pay for your shirts or whatever you're selling, and a little bit extra for your crack habit, then, or whatever it is,
shopping, food.
Food, which I think are silly. But
hierarchy of needs.
Yeah. So people buy more shirts, you know. We sell a lot of merchandise. And on this last tour, when they know that this is my final tour, we can't keep anything. We couldn't keep anything. And I don't know if we can sell things at the Gold Nugget, or at the Magic Castle. Mm-hmm. But man, we sold the last tour. We sold everything we had. So I don't even have my own book.
We're actually going to take a quick 2-minute break. Will's going to join us for the second half. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Not only do we have the Amazing Johnathan in studio, but we now have the Sancho to my Don Quixote. We have the Butch to my Sundance. Please welcome to the show William Arundel. Will, thank you so much for covering last week, and thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. And it's good to be here with you, Jonathan. It's good to hear your voice again.
Thank you.
I have a question. What has been your favorite practical joke?
That's a tough one, man. They're all like my children. To ask which one's my favorite.
Yeah, these kind of are your babies, aren't they?
Yeah.
I like the one where. Well, here's one. This guy's birthday we took him out for his birthday, but I told him I wanted to blindfold him so he couldn't see where he was going. We put him in the car. We were going to drive him to a restaurant, but we didn't. We just drove around his neighborhood for about a half hour, and then let him back into his own house without him realizing it, and made it sound like that we were in a restaurant, and took the blindfold off, and he was back in his living room where we started, and he was so confused by it. He looked like he was going to faint. He didn't laugh or didn't do anything. He just looked like he was going to pass out because it just didn't make sense to him. We had to explain to him, Brian, it was a joke. It's a joke, Brian. We just drove around and put you back home. And he's like, oh, I get it. I get it. Never really laughed at it.
I'm just shocked one of your friends would let you blindfold him and put him in a car.
Yeah, I know. That's it.
Yeah. there is that. You know, when I met you, we went out to dinner, and I don't know if you remember, but when I was out to dinner with you, I was struck by something that, you know, I had just seen your show, and then you were sitting in a group of people, and you were kind of quiet. And it struck me that you seemed to understand something pretty well, that there's a difference between Jonathan and the Amazing Johnathan, the character.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have a friend in the world if I was on stage.
Yeah. How do you keep those? You know, some people have trouble with that, and I've worked with people who have trouble with that.
Well,
how do you keep the two separate?
I think it's more of a volume thing. I think that I'm a lot like I am on stage. I'm a lot like that, but I'm not being a showman about it. I just I don't like to be embarrassing in restaurants. I really hate when people are loud and they bring other people in the restaurant into the practical joke. I don't want to keep it at our table. I want to keep it, you know, sane. I don't want to be, hey, I saw Amazing Johnathan. What an asshole he was, you know. But no, I try to keep it real.
Try to keep it real.
Yeah, I only associate with people who have good sound. There's ways to do it, and that is to associate with people who are also funny and have the same kind of sense of humor. If you tell a joke and it's about child molestation, of course that's funny, but somebody with a child might take it personally and they're out of the group. You know, boom, out.
and there's a very, very big difference between making the joke of, you know, liking children and saying I like 7-year-olds specifically. It's you can make jokes about in general, but make it a targeted joke.
No, yeah, my jokes are very offending, but not to the people I hang out with. If you bring a stranger into this whole thing, then someone's going to get indignant.
If you're worried about being safe around your friends, they're not really your friends.
Yeah.
There's some truth to that. I think it has a lot to do with people you surround yourself with. I'll tell you where a joke about child molestation is not funny, because I saw it happen once, and that is in social work school. That went over like a lead balloon.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, preschool, kindergarten, playground is not real good either.
Well, it depends. If the kid's telling them to another kid, it's funny. If it's the teacher telling it to a kid in a dark closet, that kind of changes the effect.
Yeah, I don't like real politically correct folks. You know, I try to upset them whenever I can, because I think the comedian should be able to say whatever they want on stage without somebody getting offended. Like when Michael Richards said that, when he went off, and I told everyone around me that I thought Michael Richards was right to do that, because if the situation was reversed and it was a black comic on stage and a white guy heckling him, then you can bet it wouldn't make the news, you know. But he just did it wrong. That's why he did it in anger, not in cleverness. And I still agree with Michael Richards. And when the Sahara found out that that was my position, the newspaper wrote about it, saying that I was a racist. And they wanted an apology, so you know what I wrote? This is a good letter. I'll apologize when Chinese people learn to drive, black people stop talking in movie theaters, and Jews aren't so cheap. That was my apology. And after that, nobody's going to ask me to say another word about anything.
Well, no, and you know, it's the one thing that I always loved about your character up there on stage is the character was really strong. The character, you know, would use offensive material. The character would swear, but I never thought you were blue, and I never thought you were mean.
No,
you were
never
natural.
Done. Any word can be used if it's done not in anger.
Yeah.
If it's done for the sake of comedy, I think it should be legal. And a lot of people are going the other way. A lot of people are real careful. These politicians and stuff, if they wouldn't apologize for some of the things that they said off when they're not in front of the camera, everybody talks like they do. When they get busted talking like that, they lose office. If somebody would come out and say, "Hey, I'm joking around. It's a joke. It was said in jest." So,
And I always thought that the only time the character the Amazing Johnathan got angry was at yourself. You never got angry.
Penny,
you never attacked.
at Tanya.
Yep, but there was a give and play in there, and there was always
There was a love.
Yeah, it was almost more you were frustrated at this than mad at it.
Yeah. It was. We tried to turn the situation around where Tanya gets me back at the end by, shooting me, but they hated it. They didn't want to see me hurt. They wanted to see her hurt. Mm-hmm. And I think it's funny when women and old people get hurt, fake, not for real, fake. Like that's to me.
Well, when you had Billy McComb open for you, and Billy, who was at the time pushing 80, him doing backflips, and crashing off stage.
80-year-old man, and we switched him for a gymnast that looked just like Billy. Had gray hair,
same
and
beard.
And his introduction, he would do hand over feet cartwheels from wing to wing, and then crash into the wing, and then the real one would walk out brushing his suit off. It was a great opening. But yeah, I think that it's funny. I think it's funny to upset politically incorrect people. I think, I do it right on stage. Nobody's ever complained about it, and I've never been shot. And I tell some pretty racist jokes up there, but I do tell white racist jokes too. So
you when you attack everything, you're not targeting one group.
Like when I tell a black joke, I'll follow it up with why don't white black people tell white jokes? Nothing funny about working for a living. See, I'll switch it around.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. That wasn't a switch.
There's a line that Daniel Tosh has that I always liked about when the audience kind of starts reacting. He goes, "That's for you, the side of the room that's taking this too hard."
Yeah, I love lines like that. I love pickup lines after. I just love it. But Daniel Tosh is great, man. He's very brave. The stuff he does is very, very, very. I love brave comics. There's not a lot of them out there.
Yeah, you've got to dedicate to material if you're going to do
Doug
it.
Stanhope. You can talk about anything. They can talk about anything, and it's funny. Louis C.K. can talk about anything, and make it funny. It's whether it's done in comedy or like Letterman. When I did the Letterman for the first time, he got pissed off because I stabbed a girl in the head with scissors. He cut the set. He wouldn't air it, and I've already did it. I had to go out and do a whole new set in front of the same audience because he didn't want to air that bit. And
do you think there is a line that is too far?
No, I mean, yeah, I do. If it's hurting somebody, people that are hurt by, say if you say the word retard on stage and someone comes up and goes, "My son's retarded," that isn't really hurting that person. That they're just being a martyr. What do you call? What's the word for
a
it?
martyr? Yeah,
they're just trying to be. They're just trying to get attention. I just tell them, shut up and go home. If you didn't like it, you should have walked out.
When I was
there is too far. When you hurt somebody for real, I think that's too far.
I used to have a cancer joke in my old Comedy Magic set that every once in a while somebody would just get incensed over, and the whole joke, I had a cigarette and I'd go, where are the smokers? Smokers, round of applause, come on, get loud, smokers. Yeah, let's hear it for cancer. If you're going to get it, be proud of it, right?
Yeah.
And and I don't know, I'd say every 10 shows, somebody would come up to me and just, and it was never somebody who had cancer.
Yeah.
It was always somebody who knew somebody who.
Yeah. Because the person that had it probably was dead.
Right, so they weren't complaining.
Yeah. I used to use a voice box, those throat box things that people that smoke and they have their larynx cut out and they have to use that mechanical thing. Well, I used to have a ventriloquist dummy that had to use one of those because he smoked too much, which I thought was hilarious. And the first night I did it, somebody came up with one of those from the audience. What are the chances of that? And they said, "I don't think that's very funny."
And if you weren't giggling at that moment.
Inside I was dying, but on the outside I was. First of all, I was thinking, did somebody set me up for this?
Yeah.
But I never did the bit again, because that I thought, well, that hurt that guy, and I was put off by it. But if it's really truly hurting somebody, I can tell. I go by my gauge, whether.
Yeah, if you're making fun of something that's going to feel very personal to somebody in a realistic way where it looks like you're attacking a person, that's different than making a joke about a blanket situation.
To look at a guy in the front row and go, hey, you're fat, blah, 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 go off on him. It's like, that's not funny. That's not funny, Unless the fat guy fell, then
well, yeah,
there's exceptions to that.
Well, Eugene Berger once told me that
he's fat.
Not anymore.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah. No.
I thought you were still on the fat.
No. We can go with bald though. Eugene once said, "Not all laughter is good laughter. Some people laugh because they're uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
And those people don't come back to see you again.
And they laugh because sometimes the joke's not even funny. They laugh because it's the rhythm of the show. They're used to laugh. You do not funny. You can put anything in there, and they'll laugh at that one until they catch on that you're not doing funny material anymore. But they laugh at all the wrong. That's like taking Tanya, my assistant, to the movies. She laughs at all the wrong places. There's always somebody laughing at the wrong place in the movie. It just doesn't quite get it. Mm-hmm. And that person's usually
he who laughs loudest understood the least.
Yeah.
We've got about 2 minutes left. Will, did you have another question?
No, I'm good.
And so, what has been one of your favorite moments performing?
God, that's a tough one. The show that I did for the president was probably the weirdest, most fun I had because I did a hit.
Which one?
I did a show for President Reagan.
Okay.
And the Secret Service called me and said, "You want to do a show for the president?" And I hung up on them because I thought it was a prank call, and it was a real call. So they did a background check, and they said, "Meet me at the corner of 56 and Broadway, and we'll pick you up in a black van." So I did. I flew to New York. I went to that corner, and Seinfeld was standing there, and so was Yakov Smirnoff. Black van picks us up, doesn't take us. Does not tell us where we're going. They drive in a tunnel under the harbor, and they come up on Governor's Island as the naval base. And we did a private show for President Reagan, and I did a hit of ecstasy, and that was probably the most fun I've ever had.
The website, VegasHypnosisShow.com. Drop me a line anytime at info@VegasHypnosisShow.com. Amazing Jay.
Yeah, thank you. Go to my website at ecstasyforpresidents.com. And
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. Will, thanks for joining us. We will talk to you next week.